Hi everyone, and I am Sharon, and today we join the Beneficial AGI Challenge, which is a lifelong journey where you receive 1, 2, 3 tasks per week. And these tasks are designed to expand your knowledge and understanding in artificial general intelligence, AGI. So on top of the main groups, we will have small working groups from now, where you will be able to practice and have more intimate and meaningful discussions. So be noticed, and anyone who wishes to lead and coordinate such a small group, feel free to contact me. And like this, we could save these meetings, these fireside chats, to actually inviting other people that we can actually learn from and grow together. So again, feel free to reach out to me if you want to lead a small group from the BGI challenge. Now, another thing, a little background about SingularityNET to those of you who are not yet familiar. So SingularityNET was founded by Dr. Ben Gortzel with the mission of creating a decentralized, democratic, inclusive, and beneficial AGI, artificial general intelligence. Now, AGI, it's about that it will not be dependent or any central entity, okay? And it will be open to anyone and not restricted to the narrow goals of a single corporation or even a single country. Okay, so with that being said, let's get started, and let me introduce you today's speakers. So Victor Vorsky and Audrey Filon, the dynamic duo behind the Gathering of Tribes 2024, a festival that stands as a beacon of hope and innovation in the world of regeneration. So as the ancient future psalm goes, collaboration is the foundation to turn imagination into a creation and regeneration. So I could expand on Gathering of Tribes.earth, and again, not just an event, but I would say really like a co-created experience that optimizes the spirit of communal growth and ecological restoration. So please, welcome to join Gathering of Tribes, and let's get started. So welcome Audrey and welcome Victor. So let's start from definition, like how do you define regenerative movements in the context of your work, and how do they intersect with the development of beneficial AGI?
So maybe two questions there. Maybe Audrey, can you do a definition of the regenerative movement, and I'll try and connect it with beneficial AGI?
Yeah. I don't think it's an easy question to answer, actually. I think regeneration, has a lot of definition and is still very much a plural movement that is, I would say, at early stages of development, which is what makes it so exciting to move within. For now, and from my perspective, I would define regeneration as a set of principles rather than an overall theory or a framework that we can see the world through, right? So a little bit similar to, I guess, the way permaculture can be defined according to a set of values rather than as a science per se. I think this is more or less the footsteps in which regeneration is working. A good way for me to define it is by comparison or by opposition to sustainability, right? I'm sure all of you have heard this one before, but if sustainability was really this idea of maintaining things as they are or as they were, regeneration for me is really taking the next step to grow, right? To nourish, to sort of take over and to create this dynamic. And where sustainability was quite limited in terms of how it saw the world and analyzed it. I would say regeneration really has embedded in its essence this idea of looking at things from a systemic level, this holistic approach to everything, this taking into account the interrelations between sectors, between humans and nature, and so on and so forth. So yeah, Victor, you want to take the second one?
So yeah, thank you. I would say for me also regeneration is exciting because it's a question. It's a question of what does regenerative mean and how does it connect to beneficial AGI? I think it's very simple actually, because what does beneficial mean? Beneficial to whom and how? And this is exactly the question that I think the regenerative movement is working on, struggling, engaging with. Who do we benefit, and how do we create systems which achieve this regeneration or being beneficial? So I think it's really exciting times, and it will definitely be the connection of these two, of technology, of AI, and the regenerative philosophy, movement, values, principles that is required to build this next more beautiful society that we hope for.
Amazing, amazing. Yes, I also believe the connection is very clear. Like, and for me, it's building a network of regenerative communities connected also with their regenerative finance system alongside the old one. A new one is being created. And moreover, being able to use open AI tools developed by SingularityNET, for example. And here I see the connection how, yeah, AI definitely is beneficial for humanity as we are its parents and creators. So I'd like to ask you about the core principles that should guide the development of AGI. So we make sure that it is aligned and supports the regenerative movement. Yeah, the core. So I'm asking about the core principles. Let's try to narrow this down. Like what are these core principles to guide the development of AGI? Like how does it really benefit regenerative communities, the regenerative?
So
yeah,
I can answer for myself, and my answer is I have absolutely no idea, and you're talking to the wrong person. Because for me, what I believe is we need to have the conversation. And that's what I'm really excited about, is bringing the thinkers from beneficial AGI, the thinkers from the regenerative movement together, people much smarter than me, to have these conversations. And that's the purpose of the Gathering of Tribes and the other things they are doing, is to generate the conversation. I think we are far from understanding what AGI will be or what regeneration can be. And what's really important now is, rather than trying to find some simple fixed principles, is to create the culture of deep inquiry, of dialogue, of engaging together with the ideas. And that's my hope. It's actually the Socratic method, so it's very old, but that's my hope, that what we will leave the future generations is, and we know this having seen all kinds of systems around us, you fix the 10 principles, 10 commandments, or any kind of a simple framework, and in 100 years, in 1,000 years, it starts to become less relevant and to the people of those times. But the good questions stay forever. What does it mean to live a good life? What does it mean to be a good human being? What does it mean to be a good ancestor? So unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you on the principles, but I know that we need to have this conversation. And I hope that working together, we can bring together people and start this conversation going.
I believe you answered in a way. I would like to give Audrey if she wants to add on top of what you said. And then I want to just bring it down to exactly to what you just said about communication. how it's exactly how it's going to benefit, because this is exactly what we say beneficial. Audrey, would you like to add something on top of Victor? Are you here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm also not an expert, and I'm not gonna say anything new, but I just want to state the obvious, which is also where it really aligns with the gathering. We're creating this culture of collaboration, and within that, there is really a sense of giving agency back, or at least creating a space and creating some sort of a vacuum for people to take the agency back by themselves. And this specific point is really interesting, and I also don't have the cognitive intelligence to bring it to the end, but it's very interesting in the context of AI and AGI, right? Because how do we bring this agency back? And I guess the machine ends up being more or less what you feed it. And what do we feed it in this situation? What kind of, as you're saying, principles can we sort of give that space, right? To I guess allow it to bring us to the next level in terms of innovation at very different levels, from societal to governance to technological innovation and so on and so forth, so that it can really support us, which I guess is a segue into what I assume your next question will be around. Well, okay, we're here talking about a tool, and then what?
Yeah, so again, let me go back to the main question. Why do we build AGI? And like you already answered, because we want to better connect. We are social beings. So that's the reason we are building AGI, so we can better understand ourselves, connect to ourselves, connect to each other, connect to nature. This is about regeneration. And it's not just an example. It's not just, for example, I speak Chinese and you speak Portuguese, and now in real time we understand each other because of AGI. It's more than that. It's on the mindset. Imagine the gaps. Okay, let's say in spiral dynamics, you see different conscious levels. Imagine how AGI could assist us, humanity, to better connect, but to better understand each other, to put aside all the differences. So this is how it is when, when we enter from one era to another. So it started with the era of information, right? So it was, the internet was about information, but then it became about knowledge. Okay, we acquired more knowledge, but what knowledge has for itself? People could do harm with knowledge. You see what's happening with deep fake and all kind of trolling and so on. So now as we enter the age of wisdom, this is where AGI is actually serving humanity. So in coexistence. So yeah, we could, I would say, return to innocence, so we could better connect. So it's basically goes back to what you already said, Victor and Audrey. That's what we want. We want to belong. We want to be seen. We want to have a meaning. What are we without a sense of meaning or belonging, or without each other?
I think the definition of wisdom is important and interesting, and I wonder if AGI could hold that wisdom, or if it's something that is by essence human. The way I see it, just to go back, to circle back to what you were saying around the why, right, of AGI, to me there is also an element of, we don't have time. We really don't have time anymore, and it's not necessarily that I don't yet see how it can directly, indirectly yes, but directly serve connection between humans, but I can see how it can help me do, as much work as I need to do right now for all of this to function, to actually succeed. And all of this, I'm talking about regeneration. I mean, I feel like today there's a lot of dreams and hopes around the regenerative sector, and there's also very few examples of success. And it's also the big question of defining success, right? How actually, what is success? And are we still trying to define success according to a system that we're trying to leave behind? There is this element, but because we're really at the inception of this. To me, this is personal, not gathering of tribes, but there is really this element of, great, we all believe in it and we all strongly feel that it is something that is necessary, but we also don't have the time, the resources, the capacity, intellectual or otherwise, to actually pull it together in the way we have to. And it's one of the spaces where to me AI and AGI come in. And then when it comes to, again, connection and wisdom, I would love to hear more, because I don't, it's hard for me to actually envision that part, really.
So this is for me my personal big hope about around AI is that we will develop systems that help us connect. And I think what we need now is wisdom at a global scale, right? We need wisdom not just of individuals, but we need wise systems, wise economic systems, wise agricultural systems. And that's one way, I guess, of looking at regeneration. We're trying to create systems which are wise, which means whatever that means. And my hope is that AI, we've all been part of teams. We've all experienced the challenges of getting the communication flowing, of getting the coordination working. So my personal dream is of an AI which can be a team coach to start with, or an organizational coach, giving every team and organization the power of the most amazing, dedicated team coach that you can imagine. Just imagine how much that will level up our collaboration in everything that we do. And then if you can think about an ecosystemic AI, which is designed to increase and improve collaboration and cooperation between organizations, just imagine how that could turbocharge and increase the stupidity also, but the wisdom, if it is beneficial for everything that we do.
Amazing, I agree. Yeah, I have a definition for wisdom. For me, it's very simple. It's the combination of creativity and morality. And I could break it down, but I would like to hinder of what just Audrey mentioned, that how do we define success? So I would like to ask you both about how do you define success in regards of regenerative community, regenerative success. So you're founding a regenerative community and now gathering of tribes. So how would you define success in that regard?
You're throwing it back at me. That's really interesting. I have a concrete example which may answer your question. I co-founded a land-based project in South Portugal and was working on this for 2 years. And the project had two main components, I'll make it short. One around reforestation and syntropic agriculture, and the second one around culture, specifically music, musical events and so on and so forth. And this project basically imploded, like many regen projects, right? Especially in this area, because of exactly what Victor was saying. The standard thing, team dynamics, not enough resources, scarcity, so on and so forth, not enough experience, not enough wisdom, actually, to go back to what you're saying, Sharon. In going back to spiral dynamics, in orange terms, you would call this a failure, right? What came out of this project is that as this part of the project exploded and the team sort of moved away and continued building their own separate lives, this left space, a vacuum, therefore, for our partners at the time to basically take over the whole land, become stewards of the land, and the whole land is now purely dedicated to syntropic agriculture and reforestation. And I went back there a year after leaving the project, and some absolutely beautiful work is happening. I went from a completely desertified area to this really lush garden. There was no water, they brought water, and anyway, so on and so forth, right? So I would say, yeah, in regenerative terms, or according to regenerative principles, this is what success can look like, in that you change the metrics. And if you go back to the metrics of the earth, for example, or of the space, the place, which we talk a lot about in regeneration, this may be a thing, right? So really understanding the long-term impact that is completely impossible to plan ahead, but sort of taking a step back, letting this vacuum do its thing, and watching what really happens on the land, or what really happens to the human in terms of nourishment and growth and expansion.
Amazing. Awesome. I really love your answer. It's really, you know, in regenerative language, we say thinking about 7 generations ahead. And like, how do we define success? Maybe now, yeah, there is scarcity, but just as pioneering the transformation, the paradigm shift, you know. So who knows? 7 generations ahead, we found all the answers.
If I may connect, so I think for the gathering of the tribes, the answer is simpler. You know, we've set ourselves as our motto, tagline, as our driving purpose is connect for action. So every single person that meets somebody who they can do a project with, they can work with, or collaborate in some meaningful way that's meaningful to them going forward, that is our success. And the more of these connections that we can create, you know, in today's world, it's so easy. We all have thousands of friends on Facebook or LinkedIn and all of this, but how do we actually turn these connections into a connection for action, into something that moves things forward? So that's our definition of success, is increasing the number of connections which result in action.
So let's start with us, okay? Like, how do you imagine the beneficial AGI movement and the regenerative movements, such as gathering of tribes, can connect and support each other?
Victor, you want to go? I mean, I feel like I partly answered by transforming scarcity into abundance and by helping us focus on the truly human things. Meaning, I'm not scared of AI in that I'm not scared that AI will steal my job of copywriting, because I think my human brain and soul can probably be used in better ways, right? Meaning creatively to drive forward innovation and so on and so forth. So I think it's great if AI can do all those things and be open source. Amazing. We'll finally have the time and the energy that we need to focus on what, as Victor was saying, can really drive collaboration and can really drive the regenerative movement forward. So to me, honestly, in a very practical way, we need tools. We need them fast, and we need them to be cheap, and we need them to be decentralized so that we have agency over them. And we need to feed them information that, as much as possible, reduces bias and helps us move forward from the system we're in today.
Amazing. Victor?
I have a much simpler answer. Come play at the Gathering of Tribes. Let's start the conversation and dialogue, because I believe these deeper conversations around values, principles, ideas, alignment are the bedrock upon which we can build collaborations, projects, companies, villages together. So I think let's really start a deep, meaningful, engaging, and difficult conversation of what does beneficial mean, right? Beneficial to whom and how do you know if it's beneficial?
Okay, so I'd like, thank you so much. I enjoyed this, and I'd like to welcome the audience and our friends here, also to raise their hands and share also questions they have for you. And yes, and yeah, this was really great. And like, maybe you want so far, as people maybe think of questions, like tell us more about Gathering of Tribes. What is it?
Go, Audrey. Go, Audrey. We have a question. Perfect.
This is Jhanzeb Hashmi Palestine Wala from Karachi, Pakistan. I am the member of this group since quite 2-3 weeks, and I am following it, and it's very technical, you know, because I'm from Karachi and I have no information technology or computer sciences background. But what I know is that you people talk about generative intelligence, and I basically is the person who's trying to promote peace. And what I was just listening your conversation a moment ago It was related for way forward. You guys are talking about collaboration and collaborative work towards way forward. What is that way forward? This I want to learn. Where you are aiming? What do you want to achieve? What is the goal ahead you have set for yourself? This is what I want to know, please.
Great question. I love Jianzab. Great question. Victor, Audrey, you want to?
Well, I mean, my goal is to use whatever the skills or abilities that I have is to support the regenerative movement. After many years of looking at new ways of organizing, horizontal organizations in my own life, searching for spirituality, connection, community, connection with nature, I really feel that the regenerative movement connects all of these things, as well as being very practical, as is regenerative agriculture and so on and so forth. So now, having found my home, I want to contribute the best way I can to building it out. And the way we're doing it now is by organizing this gathering. You know, there's many different ways to contribute in the world. You can try and shift the mainstream and bring people forward, which is very important. For me personally, I see my role as those who have started searching for a new way or are starting a new way and supporting those. And that's what the Gathering of Tribes is. I just before this call, I had a conversation with John D. Liu, and he put out this idea of those who understand can't do anything else. So I want to bring together those who understand and enable them to do their best work. Audrey?
Yeah, it's a great answer. I mean, I think Tommy has his hand up, so maybe I'll let him ask his question.
Hey, regenerative, I'm a farmer, so among other things. So I always get interested when I hear regeneration. But I would like to ask everybody if they have heard of Kiva lending, and if you participate. So if you're into the regenerative move, and it's not fully a regenerative thing, but it's peer-to-peer lending on small amounts to underprivileged farmers throughout the world, focused on Africa, women farming, and stuff. And it combines social media. The farmer has to have a social recommendation in order to borrow. The max they can borrow is like $10,000, which for an American doesn't make much difference typically. But for a female farmer in South America, it may make all the difference in the world. And it is, in my opinion, and I'm on the farm, I was on the Farm Bureau board recently, which is one of the most grassroots organization in the world. And we do have Willie Nelson as one of our people out there, but Kiva is something I think is very worthy of anybody that speaks about regenerative practices, because it is taking a tool which is fiat, and it is plowing it back into the fields of those that need it. And we, if you have the fiat, don't necessarily get interest, you get repaid, but you can reloan that. So I'd like to just bring it, and I have not heard Gathering of the Tribes, so it's something of interest, and what Sharon is doing about trying to publicize BGI and AGI is fascinating. And I always wish I could be more involved, but I think I'll see you in Panama. And now I got to put Portugal. That's like on my to-do list, to go drink some really good port, because not only do I farm, but I make wine. So I'd like to get to the home roots of Porto. Thank you, Audrey, for letting me speak.
Thank you. Super interesting. I would love it if you could put the links in the chat, because I hadn't heard about it. And agriculture in general and region agriculture is also really close to my heart, coming from a family of farmers for 6 generations. So Kiva, great. So yeah, very, very interesting.
So Robin, 1 second, I just would like, with your permission, to reply Jian Zeb, because he asked a very profound question, and I just want to say in one word: trust. Okay, what we are trying to do here is actually to build trust. You are talking about humans that are not able to communicate, to talk to each other. They don't trust each other. And this is where it would start through these dialogues. It's not just communicating one side and that's all. It's a dialogue. Everyone has a voice. And this is what will actually bring us hope for humanity, so we can raise our consciousness level and understand that we are all the same. And this is what we are saying all of the time. And AGI will assist us so much in having this very basic understanding. Just like a baby that is born, he's a human and he doesn't know about all these differences and storytelling that we made up. So yeah, this is for you, Jianzeb. And Robin, please go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry. Go ahead, Robin. I was just trying to answer this question, what you just said. And it was that it's okay. We understand. I understand that you people are doing a marvelous job. And it is the matter of trust which has to be, built among each other. But what I know is that in Pakistan, there are 250 million smartphones. And people, youth, and others are using it in a way which is not benefiting them. Your AI, your generative sciences can be used through these phones and these laptops they have, but they are not using them correctly. So the real message which can help them get their lives better, increase their standard of living, their thinking process, that how can that be achieved?
I love your questions, because there is a meaning, meta crisis, like a search for meaning, like Viktor Frankl, this Holocaust survivor, was talking. But I'd like to engage more people with us, so stay with this and we'll get back to you, Jianzeb. I love your questions. Robin, please go ahead.
Yeah, just to comment on Kiva, and then I have a question. I've been doing Kiva loans for more than a decade, and it's a really beautiful program. It's got the big rubber stamp from organizations like Forbes magazine. It's actually, it's very reputable, and it was founded by a group of people who came from PayPal. And you can even, it's got a really wonderful mechanism regarding community building, because you can compete as a team. So there could be a Gathering of Tribes team. There could be a SingularityNET team. And the biggest two teams that are dueling it out for the most loans are the atheists and the Christians. So go figure, right? So that's a little bit on Kiva. I was curious about this issue of regeneration of community, specifically in terms of the post-singularity world. I mean, and Benjamin Goertzel has said that, the Singularity platform could possibly achieve AGI within 3 years. And that's a short fuse. He's also said that 70 to 80% of all jobs are likely to be lost in only a few years. And so it just seems to me like, while we have pressing environmental issues, for example, at this time, the massive transformation in society that AGI is going to bring, and the ability to get ahead of that in terms of community problems, community solutions, seems to be, I don't know who's doing the work at actually trying to generate the ways we're going to manage this, but it seems like it's a radical new form of community that's going to have to emerge somehow for us to survive this transition effectively.
Yeah, this is re-indigenous. This is what's we're going to see, re-indigenous. I mean, look at the Native Americans, Indians. You know why the African were brought to the Americas? Because the Europeans thought they are lazy. The Indians, the Native Americans were lazy because they didn't know what work means. They just knew how to be one with nature and play and pray and sing. And this is regeneration. This is return to innocence. This is re-indigenous, whatever you say it. I mean, Victor, any addition wisdom?
It's, I don't know, that's too high a thing. I don't claim for wisdom. I have thoughts and ideas and some good questions. I'm actually not super read up on the whole singularity idea, but the thought that came to me, right, is singularity of what with what, right? And I think, sure, humans with technology and with AI, but also I think reconnection with nature needs to be an integral part of that, right? We cannot create some kind of a super system which survives on this planet whilst ignoring or destroying the biosphere. So it's kind of really, really interesting. Yeah, that's the thought that came to me.
I just want to add as well, which is more questions. Sorry, Sharon, you invited us to give answers, but we just have questions. But to what you were saying, Robin, I think it's a super interesting question, and I believe it's near impossible to answer it because, well, we're talking about a completely new paradigm, and how can you understand a new paradigm from the previous paradigm? And so there is a little bit of this, you know, like the snake is biting its own tail, really, because we can try and anticipate. To me, it's a similar conversation as the one about the risks of AI and how can we anticipate those risks. And the reality is we have no idea, because we have no idea. And that's the very point, is that we're talking about a complete shift in many different lines of development, right? Including our own consciousness, our collective evolution, the way we understand technology. So it doesn't mean we can't try to ask the right questions, and as you're saying, to get ourselves ready. But to go back to what you were saying about what will this community really look like, I have no idea. I'm so curious to see. I think what is really important is that we hang on tight to values and principles that we know resonate and have resonated forever. And those values and principles sort of stay alongside the development lines, right, of our collective, not us individually. And so community will not look like indigenous communities did. And a tribe is not what it was 2000 years ago. And that's great. I have no interest in going back. What I'm wondering is how can we include and transcend all of those things while innovating, right? While moving forward. So more questions, but yeah.
Yeah, it's never going back, Audrey.
We're not so sure about that. You know what they say, we don't know what World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
Yeah, true. Well, and you know, this brings me to this gathering of tribes, which has caused us, has been the starting point of many a conversation, as you can imagine, from many people who were questioning the use of the word tribe, right? And to me, it really goes back to if we don't solve the issue that we have today in terms of our belonging and who we relate to and who we trust and who we can rely on a daily basis, meaning the very bottom of our needs, right? Where it's not survival, but it's right above. If we don't solve that problem, then it will keep holding us back, basically. So yeah. So it's kind of, it's not a going back, but there is a need to really look at those things that we're not, I guess, that are not sufficient right now, that we're not able to include in the way we live.
I have another question, if you allow me. There are different philosophies, religious concepts in the entire world. And the people with different concepts have different, they are all developing into the IT world. And for my school of thoughts living in Pakistan have a different philosophy about life. The AI generated or the developed AI by these people, this concept people, will have different applications or will be designed for a different thing with a different mindset compared to the European mindset development. It correlates? Do you think so?
Yeah, I want to fine-tune the conversation now, and starting with you, Jihan Zeb. Okay, so in relation to what you just said, I have two questions for you. Where do you go for knowledge? Okay, and the second one, where do you go for wisdom?
For me, I have described knowledge is knowing things. You can go get knowledge from the Google, internet. Intelligence is application and wisdom is creation of knowledge. You create knowledge. discover about in the universe. This is wisdom. So for wisdom, you do not have to go anywhere. It is that you have to see for yourself and observe and correlate what's happening around you. And from that basis, you have to develop that wisdom, which is out of the box.
I love your reply. Thank you for that. I want to hear some other voices. Please feel free also to add in the meeting chat. And who would like to answer this that did not speak? Maybe Uri, you want to speak?
Yeah, sure. I wrote it in the chat, and I want to say what I find exciting, and there are many things that could go wrong with this kind of technology, and this is getting a lot of airtime. But what I find exciting with the AI or BGI or whatever is that, a lot of the time with technology, we think we're going into one direction only to find out something that on the way we discovered something else, kind of like the race for space, and then kind of looking back at Earth was actually the goal of seeing ourselves from the outside. Some people talk about, I think with the AI, what I notice also playing with these tools is that as I try to figure out how to work with this thing, I'm also mirrored a lot about who am I, and so there's a lot of mirroring of what it means to be human in a way. I'm also very somehow inspired that by accident, as we discover this artificial intelligence, we will figure out the source of our own intelligence that for me is nature, is as the true source of wisdom. Nature, which includes us, right? The body, we are nature as well. So it's a kind of this accessing wisdom and refining our understanding of ourselves and the access to wisdom, and could be, by weird accident, discovering an artificial intelligence will connect us with our natural intelligence. So that's my call it wishful thinking.
There is a shortcut for AI is artificial intelligence, HI human, and NY nature intelligence. Yeah.
And I like the fact that you have in artificial, you have art in the beginning. So it's really about the art. Yeah? So if we discover the art of being human in the process of creating an artificial intelligence, wouldn't it be a really great kind of irony of God?
In Hebrew, it's malachutit, bina malachutit, but malachit. So it's angelic intelligence. So in Hebrew, it sounds much better. Wow, this is not just. Yeah. So anyone else wants to reply? Peter, what about you? Where do you go for knowledge and where do you go for wisdom?
Relatively simple answer would be for knowledge, books, internet, like factual sources, and for wisdom, well, as mentioned before, nature, other humans, like the less static entities, let's say.
Yeah. Maybe you do it popcorn. You invite someone else to reply these two questions.
Sure thing. Tafo, let's put you on the spot.
I assume it's on the same questions, like what's wisdom and yeah, well, so for knowledge, indeed, I go basically. I feel like in internet, and now more recently, I guess ChatGPT is better than Google to get some information, but it does come from how do you break the question. So I guess you do need a bit of wisdom to actually get the accurate knowledge you need. And yeah, I guess that's like the basic gist of it. In general, I guess like the best second option is to just meet people and have a conversation to grow your own mental capacity.
Who would you like to speak next?
Yeah, I don't know who has been here. Maybe Nir, because I joined like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, sure, there might. Tough question. I would start with wisdom. Where do I go for wisdom? I don't know. Just inside, I think, rather than outside. I wouldn't trust anything that's external for any true wisdom, or neither, or nor for knowledge for that matter, because especially today with like the deep fake, or even normal fake news or fake knowledge that's so common out there on the internet, or not even maliciously sort of designed fake news, just someone echoing something that they heard and misinterpreted and looking at it in a very specific way and just like magnifies it a zillion times if they have a lot of charisma and are deeply emotionally invested in the subject. It's very easy for fake knowledge to proliferate as it does very, very often on the internet. So I would go inside my own instincts. I would gather information. There's a really good proverb that I try to follow. It says, "Listen to everyone, believe no one." I will try and get all the sources of information that I can. Obviously, the common ones are internet days, books, much less efficient, mainly internet. But I would doubt everything, and I would go with my inner instincts for analyzing the information and trying to find what to believe and what to make out of it, or anything. I wouldn't trust anything external, ever.
Yeah, amazing. I see we are all aligned, like with our answers, like looking for the answer from inside and in nature. So again, I want to say thank you to Audrey and Victor for joining us today and sharing from their wisdom and inviting us to Gathering of Tribes event. So yes, I believe this is just the beginning of our conversation. And please, maybe final words, each and every one of you.
So I would like to, because unfortunately I need to hop off. And at first I was like, where do I go for wisdom? And I was like, I don't know. And then I realized I go to questions. I focus on questions and finding good questions and just keep on asking them. The answers will change, but the good questions are universal. And who was it, Einstein or whatever, said, if I had 1 hour to solve the problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the question, etc., and all of this. So I go to questions for wisdom, following Socrates, following Zen koans, and all of this. Thank you all. Yeah, I definitely hope this is the start of the conversation between beneficial AGI and regeneration. Audrey?
Yeah, I also have to hop off, but same, just a big thanks. It was really nice to meet you all. Super interesting conversation. Sharon, thank you for putting it together. And yeah, I left my LinkedIn and Victor as well in the chat. So if you want to continue the conversation, just drop us a line. We'll be really happy to chat more.
Lovely. Thank you, guys. Yeah.